The thing that makes it difficult is because even if life had evolved on Mars, the chances of it being preserved are very small. If we use Earth as a reference and our planet is teeming with life, yet it rarely preserves evidence of life in the fossil record. And the focus now is on exploring for habitable environments. You're looking for water, a source of energy, either solar energy or thermal energy or chemical energy, and then organic carbon, assuming life as we know it on Earth, based on carbon. So those are sort of the three things that we're looking for in the course of our mission.
Scientists observe, explain, predict, and construct hypotheses to formalize this activity. Scientific advances occur when observations, measurements, or other data cannot be explained by current theory. The advances usually involve increasing the complexity of the ideas and the accompanying equations to incorporate these exceptional events. The physicist Richard Feynman likened this process to trying to work out the rules of chess from a small number of snapshots of the game. Despite this complexity, advances have been made through thousands of individuals and teams observing, attempting to explain patterns, hypothesis constructing, predicting, experimenting, data collecting, and publishing in the areas of science where their natural curiosity and training have led them. In the future, it is likely that large teams with experts in different fields will collaborate to understand the complex interactions of the Earth's systems.
It was a simple desire, not to be like her mother, that led Karen to create her own story, her own mythology, a mythology of difference and strength. In the tale that she constructed for herself, there were significant moments in her progress, such as the day she was 12 years old and her brother Quick swung the golf club behind him and hit her full in the eye. At the first moment of impact, she was convinced of immediate blindness, but the bone had protected her, as the doctor from the high-walled house later assured her. The golf club had clean missed the eye, and she was left with only a few stitches that healed two-pole drawing of past suffering. When she opened her eyes in the doctor's white-walled consulting room, overlooking the tennis courts, and saw her mother clear before her, muttering predictably and paradoxically about both miracles and small mercies, she knew that she was saved for some purpose.
Photography was invented by 19th-century artists as an art form for their own purposes. These men were seeking a lasting, literal record of their visual surroundings, and they found it. The new combination of illumination, lens, shutter, and flat surface, coated with chemicals, sensitive to light, produced images more lasting, more convincing in their reality, and more richly detailed than painters could produce manually in weeks and months of effort. This alone was enough to throw consternation into the ranks of fellow artists. And, after their first reaction of pleasure in a new kind of image, art critics rallied with the haughty charge that photography was not, and could not be, an art. The actual world in which we live had too strong a grip on photography, they said, and pictures so dependent upon mechanical means could not be called acts of man's creative imagination. Despite the critics, photographers knew that they had found a new art form, a new mode of expression. They used the new tools as other artists before and after them have used brush and pencil, to interpret the world, to present a vision of nature and its structure, as well as the things and the people in it.
There was also music during performances. Going to the Globe was fun. There was a holiday atmosphere outside the theater, with crowds of people, not only theatergoers, buying goods and refreshments from the market stalls around the building. It was a particularly popular place with young people, many of whom had taken the day off work to go there. Then, when the play was about to start, a trumpet was blown, and people took their places inside the theater. Both men and women attended performances, although wealthier women often wore masks to hide their identity. With room for audiences of up to 3,000 people, the Globe was a 3-story theater that had quite advanced facilities for stage productions. Props and special effects included the use of real cannon, fireworks, and smoke for battle scenes, trapdoors in the floor of the stage for surprise entrances by actors, and ropes to enable them to make flying entrances from above.
One of the things that people have said about agriculture is that on the whole, it's more labor-intensive than hunting and gathering. And that's one of the reasons why people have looked to explanations which, you might say, are kind of corrosive factors, that people have been forced into agriculture because they had no alternative. That is ultimately what may happen. But at the very beginning, it could be that agriculture was developed because people wanted special status foods for feasting, that it was actually a social need. I mean, how much of what we do in our lives is generated by competition with others? And a lot of that is powered by desire for new things, new statuses, new whatever it might be. Respect, recognition also are important. And in small-scale societies, a lot of those sorts of factors are generated by the ability to, for instance, throw feasts. One possibility is that some of these foods that were being grown were actually intended especially as feasting foods.
Perhaps you remember the dire predictions from the analysts. The fall-off in housing threatened to drag down the entire economy. High energy prices put the kibosh on consumer spending. Runaway inflation was poised to take off. David Wyss is an economist at Standard & Poor's. He says in the end, none of those things happened in the final 3 months of last year.
Well, the banana is the first cultivated fruit. It's one of the food items that literally brought people out of the jungle, out of their hunter-gatherer lifestyles, and was there at the dawn of agriculture, which is what helped force human beings into communities. It's really one of the things that helped invent human culture. It's about 7,000 years of history, and the banana, from its center of origin, which is believed to be Papua New Guinea, spread out with people who traveled in boats across the Pacific into the mainland of Asia, and all the way south to Australia across Indonesia and Micronesia, and eventually they moved as far as Africa and even possibly to Ecuador, all in this time, and all on paddle boats and wind-driven boats.
I'm going to argue that the tremendous increases in productivity that we associate with the Industrial Revolution originate not so much from changes in science or technology or new inventions, where England was far from unique as from changes in attitudes towards morality, towards what constituted the good, attitudes towards property, which became in England individuals long before it did on the continent, attitudes toward the proper role of government, and together, these attitudes constitute much of what the Luddites were protesting against.
Like, share and subscribe the channel for upcoming videos and also press the bell icon for notifications.